I'm Jim Masters. This is the 6th annual Film Industry Mixer. We're here at the beautiful Garde Arts Center in New London, Connecticut. I'm from WNET, Channel 13 in New York City, WLIW 21 in New York, Connecticut Public Television, PBS National. Also, you can find me on Connecticut Perspective TV, Sundays at 11 on WTNH Channel 8, Close-Up Talk Radio, Close-Up TV News, and a few other things. But we are here to celebrate this fine gentleman who's recognized all over southern New England on Fox, Connecticut, WTIC TV 61. And he is Stan Simpson of The Stan Simpson Show. A lot of people love Stan. He's a great guy, and he has great guests on his show, too. Stan, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thanks very much. You're like a media entrepreneur, man. My goodness. You're a one-man man, huh?
You know how it is, right?
You got to hustle, right?
You got to keep your name out there, right? So Stan Simpson, The Stan Simpson Show, aptly named. Tell us, what is The Stan Simpson Show for people who have not been familiar with it?
Well, the quick elevator speech is Connecticut people, compelling issues. We try to talk about anything from entertainment, sports, education, government affairs, relationships, whatever's hot. We try to make it a talk show with no boundaries. So we've had Governor Dan Malloy, we've had Jim Calhoun, we brought on new artists, whatever is an interesting topic that the masses could get something out of.
Absolutely. Do you make it topical to what's going on that week, or do you have guests already lined up and it's more generic?
Yeah, I wish we had guests lined up. You know, it's a week-to-week proposition because news is very fluid.
Yeah.
You try to stay topical.
Right.
And I've tried to book ahead 2 months in advance, and the reality is it works better when you're booking on the fly because you're able to respond to things as they're happening.
So you like to keep it fresh and current.
Absolutely.
So,
spontaneous.
And spontaneous as well. What are some of the recent guests and stories and topics you've talked about that have been really, compelling, like you say?
We had an interesting guest, Carl Hardrick. He's 72 years old. He spent the last 50 years working as a gang mediator. He was a guy going on the street, separating gangs, keeping the peace on the streets.
Yeah.
He was recently mugged by 6 teenagers walking home in North Hartford. So here's a guy again where his whole life was dedicated to making sure the streets are safe,
helping,
and the indignity of being mugged at 72 years old. But what's happened now, the community is outraged. The gang members, the police department, all the folks he's worked with for the last decades, they're outraged that these kids had the audacity to get this guy of all people.
Yeah.
So there's a whole mentality on the street about snitches, don't snitch.
Right.
For the time being, that has been suspended.
Yeah.
People on the street are saying, we want information, and when we get it, we're going to give it up, because whoever did it to Carl, this was wrong. This was a guy who's put his life on the line to try to keep us safe. How dare these young kids come and do this? So here's this really sad situation, but yet there's a positive thing coming out in that the community, the kids in particular on Facebook, are galvanizing. They're upset, they're outraged.
Yeah.
The police are outraged. They've worked with Carl for years. Rival gang members, the guy's in prison. I mean, everyone is upset about this.
Absolutely.
And they're all saying that the one common theme is we need to find out who did this and get the information to the police. So that is healthy.
So how do you remain objective, or do you not? Are you able to give opinion? I mean, when you hear a story like that, that must fire you up, too, to say, all right, enough of this. How can this happen?
Well, I've been a columnist for 20 years. I'm part of a columnist.
Absolutely.
So my job is to give opinions. So I never have a problem giving opinions as a columnist. As a TV show host, I try to, I can play both sides. I try to be the straight man. I'll try and play devil's advocate, and also give opinion where I think it's needed. So when I had the TV show, I had the latitude to give opinion, to be objective, to play devil's advocate, because with my column, I had the chance to really give a strong personal opinion. So the beauty of the TV show is that I have different gears I can use to make the show engaging. And if it means giving an opinion and having the guest respond, great. If it means having a guest give an opinion and me playing devil's advocate, fine. So I try to make the show where it's engaging.
So you have the opportunity, being involved in the paper as well as the television station, to be able to do both. That must be great, huh, to have both worlds there?
Yeah, my career as a kid, I always wanted to do, when I was 7 years old, I wanted to be in the newspaper, radio and TV. I wanted to do all three at the same time. And when I was coming up, they told me, you can't do all three. I said, why not? You look too unfocused, pick one.
Right.
Now, of course, 20 years later, they don't need you to do all three.
Everything is all together.
Yeah. And my career's evolved now. I've gone from media, and I'm doing education leadership and community leadership. So, like you, I have 13 jobs now. I'm trying to also do some things with the community and the leadership, but I enjoy media, so I keep my media quote-unquote hustle going.
Absolutely.
Which I think you can probably understand.
Yes, absolutely, you do. So I'll be appearing at...
Exactly.
So tell us about that, the outreach that you're doing in the community. That's great. Maybe people who see you on Fox Connecticut don't realize you're doing that.
Yeah, for the last 4 years, I played a key leadership role in 2 Hartford school turnaround projects. I went from the guy with a media column who would advocate for better schools, urban education, best practices. Then they opened a media-themed academy in Hartford and came to me and said, listen, our idea is to pair a media professional with a principal. We want you to be the media professional. So I had a chance to launch a high school. So think about it. You're in media for 20 years. Use my platform to really advocate for better urban schools. And now they're building a school. I have a chance to put my hands on it and build a school. And so put my money where my mouth is. And so I had 2. So I built the Hartford Journalism and Media Academy, was a founding director there, and then was recruited to play a leadership role in this Jamoki, this charter school project between Harvard Public Schools and a charter school. So there again, you're trying to deal with dysfunction, culture changing. So you have a chance to go from someone who can opine about schools to being hands-on on the ground. And I've loved the job. I've loved being a columnist. I've loved working with the schools, touching the kids, the community. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to play both roles, and it makes you more relevant when you can. It's one thing to talk about what you can do. Another thing when you're on the ground in charge of making it happen.
Exactly right. Well, in our industry, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of people just to get all, wrapped up in the glamorization of it. You're on television. There's people watching, following. You can get a little bit of, a power-hungry situation. But you're a roll-up-the-sleeves kind of guy who walks the walk and talks the talk. I mean, you're on television, and there's this level of celebrity that comes with that. But you're, on the front lines every day, and that's great. And that also makes you appreciate the role that you have to be able to have this platform with the paper and with the television station for people.
It's a blessing, Jim. As you know, I think you're playing to your passion. And a funny story, when I first started opening the school as director, I'd walk into school and people come to me and say, "Can I ask you a question? Why are you here? Why do you leave this platform media?" Because we started in a very ramshackle school, and they were like, "Why would you leave there?
The beautiful studio. Why'd you leave
here?
there?"
All this dysfunction and mess." And so they didn't understand I had a passion and a purpose in life. But I always would laugh when people would say, "Why would you come here? What's in it for you?" And they didn't get why it was so compelling to me to come there and put my hands on it.
Absolutely. What would you say to an aspiring journalist who's watching right now, who maybe is here at the Mixer, or they're familiar with your work, and they want to get into this field? Would you recommend going through the newspaper and then to the television? Because everything's changed with digital too.
I would say follow your passion, but be open to doing things that you're not comfortable with. So if you think you're a strong writer, but you're not good with the camera, be open to do something with the camera. Be open to doing voiceovers. Be open to writing. Be open to graphics. Try to do things that you're not very strong in, because that will strengthen your overall game. And so many times folks come into this industry, they want to be a broadcaster, they want to be a writer, they want to be a producer, and they're in that box. And now you have to be much more multimedia, multi-platform. So I would tell folks to step out of your comfort zone. Whatever they're offering you, take it, go after it. I wanted to be a sports writer when I first started out.
Did you?
Loved sports, but there were no sports opening. I had an internship in sports. Finally, they said, try news. I said, I don't want to do news. This is boring, doing all those meetings. Ended up trying news and then loved it. Ended up being a news columnist, because I learned with news, you learn something new every day. Going to those board meetings, they're boring, yes, but you learn about what is a mill rate and zoning ordinances and board of education meetings. And so you earn your chops. To become a columnist, you don't just get anointed, or you shouldn't. They just shouldn't anoint you as a columnist. You should be getting your A, B's, and C's covered on the ground, foundationally, covering stories, meeting people, becoming a great journalist, and then I think you should earn the right to be a columnist. You should know how to report, how to interview, how to gather facts. Too many times there are some people who get anointed to be columnists, and they aren't really good reporters. I think a great columnist is normally a great reporter. That's from my point of view.
Absolutely. So you have your show, and it's pretty much a free-flowing format, would you say?
Yep.
So what are some other memorable episodes that really have touched your heart, or just have gone beyond the actual show itself?
I always tell people probably the next show, but I'll give you one example. We had Vin Baker. Vin was an NBA player, went to the University of Hartford, had a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and he came on our show, and for the very first time had to talk about the addiction and what it meant. So there have been stories in the paper, but what happened when Vin started talking, he's bald. Beads of sweat just welled up. He was drenching with sweat. Because the first time he was really talking about it, and you can see he was just the emotion.
On your show.
And so we had to stop because he actually wanted to ask for a towel during the interview. He was sweating so bad. He thought we were,
we
were taping live. He said, "Kind of towel." Then
can I at least mop up?
But he was just, mop up is a good word. But there, I thought was human. He was embarrassed by it. I said, "Don't be embarrassed. That's human.
People
You're talking about a very personal
that.
issue."
Right.
And so that was compelling to me. But we've had a lot of great shows, and I always tell people the next show is always the best one.
Absolutely. That's the way it works. When does it air? Let people know. Fox Connecticut.
Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m. Also online, www.foxct.com/Stan. So we have a on-air platform, an online platform, and it airs Sunday on CTN at around 10 o'clock. So like you, we have multiple platforms.
Multiple platforms, including here at the Garde Arts Center, right?
That's right.
Stan Simpson, appreciate it.
Thank
it's a
you.
pleasure to meet you as
Same
well.
here.
Fox Connecticut, the Stan Simpson Show. It's a real pleasure. Keep
Thank
up
you,
the
Jim.
good work.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Masters.